I'm going to prepare the pages for my waterfall. The first 5 pages are assembled the same way. I place my page on the scoreboard, and along the 5-inch side I score at 1/2 inch. Then I fold up at the seam, and this forms the hinge for my page. Then I put some 2-sided tape along the hinge, like that. And I do the same thing for all 5 of the pages. The last page is a little bit shorter, and that's the page that's going to be put at the very end. So I went ahead and I prepared all of my pages, so you don't have to watch me do that. So now I'm going to attach my pages to the waterfall. I take my piece with the chipboard side up, and there's my insert. Make sure it's in the proper position, like that. And I'm going to lay my waterfall pages at the very top edge of the chipboard insert and lined up with the left and the right. Now this is the same width, so it should cover perfectly. Okay, so line it up with the very top edge. So I'm going to remove a bit of the tape backing. And now I can put this in place. Make sure it's nice and straight. You don't want your pages to be crooked. There we go. So the first page is attached. Now for the next page, I'm going to attach the top edge just over the hinge of the first page, just over the very bottom edge of that hinge. It's just going to barely cover like that, and it's going to be again lined up left to right. So let's just remove a piece of tape backing. It's easier just doing it a bit at a time, because you can always reposition your page a lot easier. So just barely covering that bottom edge, and make sure it's straight on the left edge as well, and adhere like that. And I do the same thing with the third page. And the next one. Number 5. I used to do my waterfall pages working from the bottom up, but I find it's easier to just do them from the top down. All my pages are attached and they're lined up. Now this bottom piece, you don't need to put it on if you don't want to, but I wanted to make it consistent because this is my chipboard. My chipboard is a little bit blacker than my cardstock, and I want it to look consistent. So I'm going to put this piece of cardstock just over the chipboard like that. Again, just covering the bottom edge of this piece of the hinge of the cardstock, and it just lines up perfectly with the bottom. If your piece was a little bit too short, you can always make it a little bit longer if you want, depending on how much you overlap your pages over the hinges. If you're a little short, make your piece a bit longer, and then you can always trim it to suit. So I'm going to put some tape along my four corners. And I use my glue stick around the edges and in the center. And then I'm going to position this so it lines up perfectly along the bottom, and my edges are straight left and right. Like that. Now before I mat, I'm going to leave these pages black because the majority of the pages are going to be covered anyways, because I made this for 4x6 photos. So I'm not going to put any paper on top. The back, if you wanted, you could mat with plain paper if you wanted people to journal on the back, but I'm going to leave that plain also, because that way you can put photos on both sides. And instead I'm matting the inside of the pages here. But before I do that, I want to put a little bit of trim here, and I'm going to attach it underneath this section so that it's decorative at the top or the side. I have that little border that shows. I also put one on my tag, and that gives it a consistent look like that. And I matched it with the ones that I added on my pages. You don't need to do this, but I think it just sort of adds a bit of pizzazz to it. And I also put a border on my top flap before matting it. Okay, so I'll show you how I did that. Now for my tag, it's just very straightforward. Cut it the size that you want, and then you add your border on top. So I may as well do my tag. I'm going to put the border along the 6.5 inch edge on my tag, like that. Which is the same edge as on this one here, because it slides in like that. So I just punched along a piece of cardstock, and I used white cardstock, or it's ivory, and I'm just going to measure how long I need, like that. Now I want to mat this, and I want my tag to line up with my matting, the border. So I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch on the left and on the right edge. So I'm going to position that like that, and I'm going to trim about here. And I can just use my scissors for that. Then I put a piece of two-sided tape. When you cut your border, don't cut it too wide because you want it to fit inside here. Okay, so don't go putting a really, really thick border because then you won't be able to close your cover. Like that. And I'm just going to trim these little ends here a bit. Finish them off. Okay. And that's not bad. And then I'm going to mat over this edge like that. Now I want to put a border along the top edge of my page, my base page. So here's my top edge. I'm going to attach it before I mat. So I pre-cut my border and I'm going to center that. So that should be, there's the center. Like that. Again, I want to give myself a little 1/8 of an inch here on each side, and my matting will line up with the edge of the border. That. So I'm going to attach it inside, just above the magnet area. So I'm going to put some two-sided tape on here. I want to make sure it's on straight. Oh, that's pretty good. So there's the border on the top, and again when I mat, I'm going to line it up with my border. It's a little bit crooked when I cut it. It's not quite like that. Okay. I want to add some decorative borders to my waterfall like I did on this one, up at the top, along the pages, and at the bottom. So I'll take my waterfall. I've already trimmed my pieces, and because I'm not matting these pages, I'm just going to have my borders go from the very left to the very right edges on my waterfall. So this one is going to go like that, and then I can trim the little ends if they're a bit too long. So I'm going to attach the bottom one. Like that. And then I can trim the excess. Okay. Now I'm going to do the top section, and that's going to go on the back on the insert. Like that. Now I'm going to just trim my little edges here of my design so that it fits better. You don't want to attach it to that little extra seam up here, the little extra layer. You want to make sure it's on the back of your insert. Like that. And then same thing with the pages. I'm going to attach them underneath each page like that. So again, I'm going to trim my little ends so that they look more finished. So I'm going to attach the rest of these off camera, and then I'll show you how I mat the pages. I've finished attaching my borders to my pages, and there we go, like that. So now what I want to do is I'm leaving the pages plain, but I want to mat the inside here, the insert and the chipboard, because I've got a magnet here and I don't want to just leave that like that. So I've pre-cut my matting paper, and let's see how that goes. That one's going to go up here, and this one, no, this one goes here, and this one goes up there like that. I think I trimmed this a little bit. Yeah, I need to trim it a bit more. I think I'll put this one up there, and I'll trim this one to fit this way. When you're trimming over a page that has a magnet, you want to remove the two-sided tape, and that's just going to help the paper adhere over the magnet area. Like that, and this piece goes up like that. Now, if there's a design in your paper, you want to make sure that it's going to face up when you open the waterfall. And these are the only sections of the waterfall that I'm matting. You can mat the other pages if you like, but I'm just going to leave those plain like that. Now I'm ready to mat inside the base page. And again, I've got my pieces of matting ready to go. Now before I mat, I want to punch little decorative corners on my bottom pieces here. So I should have done that before attaching my magnets, but it might still work. Let's see, I've got my little corner punch here. Yeah, it still works. Now if I had to, I could just remove the magnet, punch my corners, and then reattach the magnet. I think I'll do that just to be on the safe side. Now I'm going to reattach my magnets. I'll just put them back on top of the original ones and fold that down and press. There we go. Okay. Now, because I punched these corners, when I put my paper on here, I don't want to cover up the corners like that. So I'm going to cut the corners with my circle punch here, and I'm just going to cut the very corner like that. And that's just enough so that my corners will show through like that. So now I can go ahead and attach that. And I also remove the tape covering the magnets. Oops, a bit too much over to the right on the bottom here. Now I'm opening the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing with this paper. I'm going to trim my ends, my corners. And I'm just eyeballing that. You can practice on another piece of paper if you like first. Yeah, that works. Now, you're going to mat this section here, and again, remove the tape from the magnet. You're going to mat the top section here, just like that, and I match up my matting so that it meets with the edge of the border, left and right. And then I do the same thing on the top, like that, and it's just going to line up with the border. And then I'm going to go and do that off screen, and then when I return I'll show you how I mat the tag that inserts into the pocket, and we'll insert the waterfall into the page. For my tag, I have this little piece of paper that was left over, and I don't want to waste it, and I really like it. So what I'm going to do is put that little piece of paper over my tag like that, and then I have another little border left, and I'm just going to overlap the edge like that. So it's a good way to use up those little spare pieces of paper that you have left over on tags. So I'm going to remove the tape backing from here. Now I'm going to line it up with the very left edge of the border, like that. And I do a border of cardstock around the other edges here. Now before I put this piece down, I'm going to ink one edge of this. Actually, I think I'll just ink off 4 edges. I'll make it pop. So I line it up with the other end of the border, and I line it up with the top edge and the bottom edge of the paper that I just taped down before. Get that sticky stuff in there, like that. So you just cut your paper so that it's the same height. There, I like the way that looks. Yeah. And on the back, I've got this piece here that I'm going to attach like that. That's the nice thing about working with paper pads. The papers coordinate, so you don't have to think too hard about what to put with what. You know that the colors will go well together generally. But sometimes I will have to top up my paper pads with some paper that I had in my stash if I go through a bit more than one pad. So instead of buying 2 pads, I might just buy the one and add from what I already have. But generally, I can make an album out of 1 pad of paper. There we go. So now I can put my waterfall and my tag in my album, in my base page. So I think I'll put my tag up here. And my waterfall can go on the left. Like that. And it holds thanks to the magnet. Now if you wanted to, you could mat the top page, but I'd rather just keep it for photos. That. The inside here is matted, so you could also put photos on there. Okay, so that's it for the waterfall pages of the page. I'm going to eventually embellish the top. So you need to make 3 of these pages total.